Adam watched his students. It was a festival, and a figgy was set up in the center of the campus. As the sun rose, the figgy was set to the flame. The smoke rose into the sky along the rising sun. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today, we meet an Aztec god who established one of the most well-known traits, Huītzilōpōchtli. Okay, this is going to get a bit confusing, and sorry, I'm going to struggle with some of the pronunciations in this video. Now, he has two origins. In the first, he is the fourth child of the creator couple, Tanakatekli Tonakasihoahu, and he and his siblings would work to create the world. But in the other, he is the son of Kuleteleku. She was mourning atop a mountain when she would collect the feathers of hummingbirds and form a ball with them before placing them inside herself. For this to make sense, you need to understand a bit more about Aztec mythology. When a warrior was slain in battle, or a woman died in childbirth, their soul would go through several steps, including being reborn as a hummingbird. For those who aren't familiar with these tiny little birds, they are damn aggressive and very territorial. So yes, a warrior bird does make sense. So, by taking the feathers of the fallen and reborn warriors into herself, she became pregnant. Now, Kuleteleku already had other children, a daughter, Koizaki, and about 400 brothers. And when they heard that their mother was pregnant by some feathers, they went to kill her. Now, Huītzilōpōchtli called out from within his mother's womb and said that he would take care of it. As his would-be siblings descended on their mother, he was born in full armor and fully grown. Yeah, that must have been painful. The now-born Huītzilōpōchtli would grab a turquoise serpent, straighten it out, and then proceed to decapitate his sister. He threw her head into the sky to become the moon, and then gave chase to his fleeing brothers. They did not escape him, and their remains would become the stars. Just born and already fighting armies off. Very telling of what was to come. He is as much a god of war and sacrifice as he is of the sun. In Aztec mythology, this battle would unfold every single day, telling us that each day was a gift. Now we need to talk about his name. Huītzilōpōchtli has a couple of translations. The first part of his name meaning hummingbird, which harkens back to how he was conceived. But the second part can be translated as of the left side or the south. The Aztecs saw the south as being to the left, following the sun's path through the sky. So his name could be translated as the hummingbird's left side or the hummingbird of the south. Or when looking at the meaning of the hummingbird, you get resuscitated warrior of the south. That's a lot to get into. Now, after all of that, he would work with Quetzalcoatl to create the world. I have mentioned it a few times before, but in Aztec mythology, there were 5 suns. 5 times the gods sought to create the world, and 4 times it failed. In the first attempt, they created the world, and it kept falling into the water and being devoured by a giant caiman alligator named Sepakli. The god Tezcatlipoca would cut off his leg and use it for bait for the caiman. After that, they would create the world, and Tezcatlipoca would become the first sun, but he was weak, and it was a pitiful sun. In time, he would fail. Then, on the second attempt, Quetzalcoatl got a turn, and then Tlaloc, then Chalchihuitli, and then finally Huītzilōpōchtli. He would be involved in more legends, such as founding the capital city of Tenochtitlan. Huītzilōpōchtli had a sister, Xochitl, who was bane to the Mexica portion of the Aztecs. He ordered the Mexica to abandon her, and they did once he put her to sleep. But her son Copil started a march against them when she awoke. Though he would make a mistake and get caught unaware, and his heart was brought before Huītzilōpōchtli, and he told the high priest to chuck it off into the distance, and told the people that where land would grow a prickly pear cactus that was so tall that an eagle would make a nest atop it. So they set off to find and thus establish the capital. Now, I'm sure that some of you have heard a tale where there was a god which sacrificed himself to create the sun, and that is an alternative version to the 5th cycle. In that variation, no god wanted to take the role of the sun, for they had discussed it in detail and come to the conclusion that it was a god which must sacrifice themselves to actually create the sun. And two are chosen, Quetzalcoatl and Nanwazin. Now the latter was frail and of poor health, and he would become the moon, while the former was strong and boastful and would become the sun. So it was decided, and preparations were made. A pyre was built, and each in turn would throw themselves into the fire before arising as the new sun and moon. Now, Quetzalcoatl was to be the first, and he chickened out. 4 times he tried and couldn't muster the courage to fling himself into the flames. So the other gods started heckling, and Nanawazin stood up and flung himself into the flames without any difficulty. Only then did Quetzalcoatl follow suit. 2 suns would rise from the flames, but one god was pissed that Quetzalcoatl was a spineless coward and didn't deserve the honor of such a prestigious title as the sun, and picked up and threw a rabbit into his face, leaving a permanent impression and causing him to lose his brilliance and get downgraded to the moon. But Nanwazin was weak and pathetic before, a joke, and after becoming the new sun, it was the same. It was sinking back to the world, parching and scorching the ground. So the other gods were forced to make a decision and offer themselves up to strengthen the sun. And with their sacrifice, the sun rose into the air away from the planet and allowing life to proceed. Now, our old friend Huītzilōpōchtli was put in charge of sustaining the sun further with human sacrifices. And now we get the morbid part, the sacrifices. Huītzilōpōchtli oversaw them. Now, remember how I said that the Aztecs said that the battle of his birth occurred daily? Well, it was retold in ritual sacrifices. Many of the sacrifices were taken in battle, but some were Aztec people who were offered up as an honor. The sacrifice was held down by 6 individuals, while a priest would use an obsidian or flint knife to cut open the abdomen. Needless to say, very painful, and why they were held down. From there, the priest would need to cut through the diaphragm muscle, which separates the respiratory organs from the digestive tract. Now, remember, the person is screaming, which means that muscle is going to be contracting. Once you cut through the diaphragm, the sacrifice will begin to suffocate as breathing becomes more difficult. From there, his hand would follow the descending aorta and inferior vena cava between the lungs to reach the heart and rips it out. Now, that isn't an easy feat. Anyone who has gutted a deer could attest to how difficult it would be. It is held in place by the pericardium, which is a fairly tough fibrous material, but it also has the aorta and vena cava. The aorta can be up to 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches in diameter. That is about twice the size of a garden hose, and it takes the full force of the beating heart, which moves blood throughout the whole body, about 5 liters per minute. And we have the 2 vena cava bringing blood in, which are a comparable size. And these priests are able to grab the heart and rip it out while beating. That is important. It is moving, pulsing. At rest, a heart beats about once a second, but when panicking, such as suffocating or being stabbed, that heart would be racing. We are looking at 2 or 3 beats a second, and you are trying to grab it, while your hands are covered in blood, making them slick. That is not easy. These priests had to be pretty strong, and it can continue to beat for several minutes, even after being removed, and they would hold the still beating heart up to the sun. After all of that, the body would be sent down the temple stairs to the stone of Koilzaki, his sister. From there, the body would be divided up and parts given for other sacrifices or tribute to individuals. This was also a way for warriors to move up the ranks based on the number of prisoners brought in. Now, the exact number of sacrifices is unknown. Some estimates are over 20,000 people in a day during festivals. Yet that is potentially Aztec propaganda. Overall, the tales associated with Huītzilōpōchtli do a wonderful job showing the nature and mythology of the Aztec culture. Their mythology is brutal, and that heavily reflects on their culture. The flames rose higher and higher as the embers dwindled. The crowd started about their day filled with festivities. Turning to his side, Adam grasped his wife's hand. They set off for a day together, though Clara kept looking back towards the effigy and fully understanding the real history behind it, and the price that was paid for their enjoyment and survival. Huītzilōpōchtli really has an interesting impact on how we view the Aztec mythology. It highlights their views on how things work. Thank you for watching. Since we talked about the sun, let's look at a moon-eating dragon next. Baku Nawa. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.